She was a daughter of the Gilded Age, born into a world of opulent ballrooms, strict social codes, and old money privilege. Dorothy Harriet Camille Arnold, the 25-year-old daughter of perfume magnate Francis R. Arnold, inhabited a sphere where reputation was currency and scandal was the ultimate sin. Her family's name was synonymous with success, their wealth built on the lucrative import business of perfumes and pharmaceuticals. For a young woman in this stratum, life was a meticulously choreographed performance. But behind the serene facade of the Arnold family's Upper East Side townhouse, a quiet rebellion was brewing. Dorothy was not content to simply be a socialite waiting for a suitable marriage. She was a graduate of Bryn Mawr College, an intellectual, and she harbored a secret, burning ambition. She wanted to be a writer. In the rigid social structure of 1910, this was not a celebrated pursuit for a woman of her standing. It was an eccentricity to be tolerated at best, or a shameful secret at worst. Her literary efforts were a source of quiet friction at home. Her family, particularly her father, viewed her writing as a frivolous hobby. To protect her aspirations from their dismissive gaze, Dorothy took a clandestine step. She rented a post office box under a pseudonym, a private channel through which she could submit her stories to magazines and receive the inevitable rejections away from the critical eyes of her family. This small act of independence was a testament to the chasm between her inner life and her public role. The conflict was not merely about career. It extended to matters of the heart. Dorothy had become involved with a man named George Jr. Griscom, a 40-year-old Pennsylvania engineer from a good family, but one without a significant fortune. To Francis Arnold, a man he deemed a fortune hunter was utterly unacceptable. Dorothy's desires for creative fulfillment and for a love of her own choosing were systematically stifled within the gilded cage of her family's expectations. The pressure was building, and on the morning of December 12th, 1910, Dorothy Arnold would step out of her home and into a mystery that has endured for over a century. It was a Monday, just after 11 in the morning. Dorothy Arnold descended the steps of her family's home at 108 East 79th Street. She was dressed for a day of Christmas shopping, wearing a dark blue broadtail coat, a large plumed hat, and carrying a small purse containing, by her mother's later estimate, between $30 and $36. Her stated plan was to walk down Fifth Avenue, buy a gift for her younger sister, and then meet her mother later at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel for tea. It was a routine, unremarkable outing. Her first stop was at the confectionery store of Park and Tilford on Fifth Avenue and 66th Street. Here, she purchased a small box of chocolates. She then continued her walk south, the bustling pre-Christmas crowds of New York swallowing her into the city's rhythm. Her destination was Brentano's bookstore, a literary haven at the 26th Street and Fifth Avenue. There she bought a single volume of humor, a book of light verse called An Engagement of Convenience. Leaving Brentano's, she began her walk back north. It was on this return journey, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that the last confirmed sighting of Dorothy Arnold occurred. At the corner of 27th Street and Fifth Avenue, she encountered a friend, Gladys King. They chatted briefly on the street corner for perhaps 5 minutes. Dorothy seemed in good spirits, telling Gladys about the book she had just purchased. She mentioned she was tired from her long walk and was planning to head straight home. They parted ways. This brief, mundane conversation is the last verifiable moment of Dorothy Arnold's known life. She was seen, alive and well, just a 50-block walk or a short cab ride from the safety of her family's mansion. But she never arrived home. The Waldorf Astoria tea appointment came and went without her. The final normal movements of that afternoon form a perfect, tantalizing, and frustrating end to her documented story. After that corner, the vibrant socialite simply vanished. The initial response inside 108 East 79th Street was not one of immediate panic. The family assumed Dorothy had decided to visit a friend, perhaps staying for dinner. But as evening turned to night and night turned into the next day, a deep unease set in. Yet instead of alerting the authorities, the Arnold family retreated behind a wall of silence. For the first 24 hours, they made quiet, discreet inquiries among her circle of friends, revealing nothing. This secrecy stretched into days. Francis Arnold, a man of immense pride and social standing, was paralyzed by the fear of scandal. A missing daughter in the newspapers would invite public speculation, tarnish the family name, and expose their private life to the ravenous New York press. He believed, or perhaps hoped, that Dorothy would return of her own accord, and that the whole embarrassing incident could be quietly buried. This prioritization of reputation over investigation would prove to be the most damaging decision in the case. After nearly a week of futile private searching, the family finally took action, but not the kind the public would expect. They bypassed the New York City Police Department entirely. Instead, Francis Arnold hired the most famous private detectives in the world, the Pinkerton National Detective Agency. A small army of Pinkerton operatives began a clandestine investigation, scouring the city, checking hospitals, and even examining unidentified bodies, all under a strict veil of confidentiality. For 6 weeks, the disappearance of Dorothy Arnold was a secret held tightly by the family, the Pinkertons, and a growing circle of worried friends sworn to silence. It wasn't until late January 1911, when a reporter from the New York Times caught a whisper of the story, that the mystery exploded onto the front pages. By then, the trail was stone cold. Witnesses' memories had faded, and any potential evidence from her final day had been lost to time. The official investigation began at a severe and likely fatal disadvantage. Once the story broke, the carefully constructed facade of Dorothy's life began to crack under public scrutiny. The first major revelation was the existence of George Griscom Jr. Reporters quickly unearthed the secret romance that Francis Arnold had so vehemently opposed. It was revealed that Dorothy and George had been meeting in secret for over a year. Their relationship provided the most compelling initial motive. Had the star-crossed lovers eloped? The Pinkertons and later the police pieced together a crucial trip the couple had taken just a few months earlier. In November 1910, Dorothy had told her family she was visiting a friend in New Jersey. In reality, she had met Griscom in Boston for a weekend. During this trip, a significant event occurred. Dorothy had pawned a piece of her jewelry. This act suggested either a need for ready cash unknown to her family, or perhaps a test of her ability to survive outside her gilded world. Griscom became the prime suspect in the eyes of the public and the press, but he had a seemingly solid alibi. At the time of Dorothy's disappearance, he was in Pittsburgh, and he willingly submitted to questioning, expressing his own bewilderment and concern. His story never wavered. In a desperate last-ditch effort to find answers, Francis Arnold himself traveled to Italy in 1912, where Griscom was then working. The confrontation was dramatic but fruitless. Arnold returned to America empty-handed and more defeated than ever. The public narrative was now one of a heartbroken father searching for his daughter. Yet the family's own actions remained contradictory and puzzling. In 1915, Francis Arnold filed a sworn affidavit with the district attorney's office, stating his absolute belief that Dorothy had died on the day she vanished. He claimed to have spent over $100,000 on the search, a colossal sum at the time. But by making this statement, he effectively closed the book on the active investigation, leaving the world with a single haunting question. If he believed her dead, what did he know that he never shared? Over a century later, no single theory has been proven, but three dominant possibilities have emerged from the shadows of history. The first is the story of the fresh start. Did Dorothy Arnold, crushed by literary rejection and a forbidden romance, finally seize her independence? Did she use the money from the pawned jewelry to finance a new life, perhaps as a writer elsewhere in America or abroad? Proponents of this theory point to her intelligence and her clear desire to escape her gilded cage. The second, and most grimly plausible theory for the era, is that Dorothy died as a result of a botched, illegal abortion. In 1910, such procedures were dangerous, clandestine, and carried immense social stigma. This theory posits that Dorothy, potentially pregnant by Griscom, sought out a back-alley procedure that went tragically wrong. Her family, discovering the truth, would have had the ultimate motive to conceal her death, to avoid a scandal far greater than a mere disappearance. This would explain their immediate secrecy, the use of private detectives, and Francis Arnold's later firm declaration of her death. The third theory is one of random tragedy. Did Dorothy Arnold, on her walk home, decide to cut through Central Park? Was she the victim of a robbery gone wrong, or a random act of violence? While the park was less dangerous then than now, it was not immune to crime. If her body was disposed of within the park's vast, then wild acreage, it could have easily been lost forever. This theory, while simple, is often considered the least likely, as a body would have been difficult to completely hide from the intensive private search. The enduring mystery of Dorothy Arnold is as much about her disappearance as it is about the reaction to it. The Arnold family's initial decision to value reputation above all else irrevocably shaped the case. The 6-week delay, the clandestine Pinkerton operation, and the controlled release of information created a vacuum of facts that can never be filled. Whether Dorothy Arnold was a victim of foul play, a tragic medical accident, or the architect of her own escape, the path to the truth was obliterated by her family's first, fateful choice to look the other way.